guess how much.
Wow, you can't go much further east.
I was going, that's called the Atlantic Ocean.
The riverhead.
It's a houseboat.
So the guys say I need to get started, everybody. So welcome back to another edition. We are almost perfect, week in and week out, y'all. We try our best. I am John. So happy you're here with us. The one in a hurry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Wade.
Yeah, I'm gonna say you better have Wade go first because he threw a hissy fit last week.
Let me start all over. Welcome everybody.
Oh, you guys have not even seen a hissy fit.
Welcome back. It's almost perfect. That's Wade.
Almost.
I was giving you first at everything, man. Wade, you do the introduction. I'll just sit back. Go ahead.
Introduce myself or these other two?
Everybody, man.
It's all yours. Yeah,
the people.
Okay, this on my screen, this control freak over to my left is John Fletcher, who is usually our host, and apparently he's going to do something else this week. And down here below him, only on the screen, is Bradley DeHaven. Mm-hmm. And then there we've got Mr. Baseball bringing up the rear, Tom Tarver.
Thanks, and having a good time at Asbury these days.
There you go.
All right, hey, not too bad, Wade. We got a promising future, young man.
If I, whenever you need me, I can pinch hit.
What is that like? People say the Sunday after Easter. That's like the youth pastor Sunday.
Something. Yeah, it's something.
There you go.
Oh, the Sunday after Christmas, right?
Sunday after Christmas for sure.
So today was the big game, Super Bowl. You got any reactions?
It was not as exciting as everybody thought it would be.
It was not, was it?
Yeah, it really wasn't super. I mean, it was kind of adequate, but
it was a good bowl, not quite super.
Yeah. Well, and I think that we were way too aware that there were officials on the field, which was different from the other games that other playoff games. It was very very different.
Mm-hmm.
You're one of those.
Yeah,
okay.
That's his kind way of saying officiating was suspect.
Yeah.
There was one where Tony Romo said, "I can't believe that," but the guy had him in a headlock. The lineman had like almost in a headlock. That's not a penalty. Well, if that's not a penalty, what is?
That's assault. That's what
WWE, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah. I can understand why Romo was saying that, and that certainly wasn't the ones I had some frustration with. And I leaned toward Kansas City, but I really didn't have a horse in the race or a dog in the fight. So it wasn't that. It was the having watched the other games and how they let a lot of things go, and then this one they did not.
Maybe they were nervous.
Yeah.
That
Could be.
I mean,
could be.
Andy Reid, love Andy Reid, all those years with the Eagles. We should have won at least one with him, so I'm a fan of his. But there's Mike Evans on the Buccaneers. He's a BOI. He's a Galvestonian, born and raised on the island. So I had to go for the Bucs, and then they won. So good. He brought another ring home to the island. So we're happy about that. Any commercial?
I'm like Tom. I didn't have a duck on the pond or a bear in the woods or any of that kind of stuff. So
a squirrel on the tree. A lizard in the bottle. Okay. A gopher in the bunker. I don't know.
Yeah.
A king on the throne.
Any commercials? Any commercials you'll be using for sermon material later or something like that?
It's funny. I remember the Paramount ones, but only because there were quite a few of them, and then the Doritos commercial, and it's like, what other commercials were there?
I like the Bud Light Legends.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I didn't see a whole lot of them.
I probably won't be using the Bud Light thing in sermon though. That's what you asked. Yeah, I won't do that.
Okay.
So I did see the Saturday Night Live opening, and they had 2 or 3 commercials in there that were I mean, they were laugh out loud hilarious.
Okay. I had it kind of low, so I didn't see or hear a whole lot of them. I did see Drake from State Farm, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
that was good. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. I just remember there was one church, I can't remember where it was. Seemed like it was in the Dallas area. That, the Sunday after Super Bowl, the following week, the sermon series was always, the commercials. And that was their sermon material, and that was kind of their gimmick to get people to church. I'm sorry, did I say gimmick? I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. Anyway,
it was their invitation.
It was their invitation. Very good, very good. All right, so guys, has anything happened this year that's just made you want to scream?
You mean 2021 or in the last?
Yeah.
How about in the last quarter?
Yeah.
So there's a website called justscream.baby. Between October 2020 and January 2021, Just Scream invited anyone to call, scream, and hang up. Over 130 people screamed with joy, rage, frustration, loneliness, and everything else there is to scream about. Now, what's I say funny is on the website, you can listen now to 130,000 screams. People screaming.
I thought you said 130, and now it's 130,000.
130,000 screams plus screams, man. So, and I didn't go through 130,000 of these, obviously, but I just started listening, and it's kind of like a yawn. Somebody yawns, you're like, I got a yawn too. After about a dozen of these, I'm like, ah. Some of these are funny. Some of these are like, dang, they need some help, But that creative outlet, just to give people a chance to, get it out. But we're done recording screams. Now we're collecting words of hope.
Oh,
I just thought that, you guys, you probably know how to scream. I don't know if you want to give us a scream right now. That'd be helpful to you.
no.
Chicken.
Good.
Chicken.
Just whimper. That's all.
But that maybe we can start thinking about a message of hope that we can give.
Yeah.
That might be something for you guys to think about. I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. That'd be good.
Your day job and all.
So I, on that word, last week we were talking about some of the places we go, scripture and all. And this past week I was on BibleProject.com and looking at the characteristics of God. And yesterday it was grace, full of grace, and it was really cool to discover, the Hebrew word that is translated grace is also connected with delight. And so, we think of grace as just something, we'll just, I'm going to give it, let him off this time, kind of a shrug of the shoulder of God. But there's something about us that delights God. So he wants to offer us this grace to come inside and share life together. So I love that word delight. I delight in the word delight.
We delight in your delighting of the word delight.
That's delightful.
Very good. Look at Tom preaching a sermon on a Monday. Very good, Tom.
Lovely. Yes.
Amen. All right. So, do you guys miss going to libraries? Library goers?
My libraries. I'm sitting in front of my library right now.
Well, and I do the online library actually.
I used to go. I've been to several of ours here in town.
Yeah.
I miss going to the library at Perkins. Call me whatever.
Oh yeah.
Man, I liked going there.
I always felt like I was out of place there. Like, don't touch the books. I felt like I was in one of those fine china shops, because it was so. There's so much there, and it's like, ooh, oh wait, I have to be sedate.
Some other student did get a little snooty with me one time. there was an area there where, common area you kind of hang out, and the signs were to keep quiet. It wasn't like to be quiet. It was kind of keep quiet. So that kind of boundary between complete silence and you can at least, talk a little bit here. Well, I was in that area and I had my headphones on. I was reading, and apparently I was jamming out pretty good because this guy came up to me. He's like, "What, man? What do you want?" So talk about grace, Tom. He didn't give me any grace.
Well,
They're not giving him any.
So did you have it turned up so loud he was hearing your music?
Apparently, or he was just too close to me. He heard my music. So
okay.
Who talk to?
He was in the same county.
Yeah, say about all rappers are deaf, right? Because they're all what?
I did.
Anyway.
So my wife, hadn't met me yet, but she just remembered I was the guy. Well, I was the guy in the library who was always laughing out loud because there was something would happen. The Myers-Briggs, and one of my friends was just describing that he preferred feeling with women rather than thinking women, and just that.
Did he say it like that?
Yeah, he says he was going strictly on Myers-Briggs. There's feeling and there's thinking, and I'm a feeling person, so I understood. But when he said it, he said, I like feeling women rather than thinking women. And and of course I cracked up. And that was probably one of those moments when Ellen heard me in the library, because I'm pretty sure that took place in the library. He was so in.
Where else would it take place?
Yeah, I mean, where else would you have that conversation?
Yeah, well, he turned red when he realized how it came out.
Yeah.
And I was more than happy to point it out too.
What a guy.
Between the paws, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's listening to this, I didn't use your name.
Yes.
It's not too late.
Yeah.
Come on. So
I
anyway,
remember hanging out in the library at seminary in Denver, and we always made fun of the third floor. The third floor was biblical studies floor, so it was the BS floor, and it was really hard to go into that floor with a straight face. I'm going to the BS floor. You do what? Hard to believe anything in there. So no, you have to believe everything in there. It's Bible.
It's a whole degree.
That's right.
Yeah.
I used to go to the mezzanine there at Perkins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that was great. It was dark and dank and moldy, and it was quiet. It was great. Anyway, so Carnegie Mellon University. Anybody know where that's at?
Yeah, Pennsylvania, isn't it?
Pennsylvania, yes, sir.
Yeah, I was thinking Philadelphia,
Pittsburgh,
but
I think.
Oh, is it Pittsburgh?
So I don't know what you guys use for bookmarks, but a snake in a bag found in a poetry book in the Carnegie Mellon University Library.
What?
It's a bookworm that got excited in what it read and evolved.
Okay.
Believe that?
No.
It's on the picture. It's a snake.
It's a snake.
Like a little. I mean, it's dead, of course.
Yeah.
But in like a little Ziploc bag.
Uh-huh.
It's in a book.
Yeah, like it was in a book.
Were they pressing it flat, or what was the deal?
Yes, saving it for future generations. I don't know, man. But the only reason I saw the story, I think the only reason this story was written is because of the last line. The CMU library said it was a history book. Ask readers not to put snakes in books. Thank you.
Okay, then.
You all. Thank you, John.
I appreciate your friendship, guys.
Yeah.
Mean so much to me. How about one more goofy story? This isn't goofy, actually. I don't know. It's kind of cool. I don't know how long it takes to make this more of a thing, but a 3D printed house is for sale in New York. Builders say it will cut housing construction costs. Apparently, this is one of the hardest places because of, I guess, zoning and other ordinances to make this happen. But there's this little house. I think it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom. If you had to guess how much a small
3-bedroom, 2-bedroom. Wow.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's 5, by the way.
5-bedroom house.
I know they didn't have math at Perkins.
No bathrooms, but 5 bedrooms. Right.
Yeah, thank you guys. You had to guess a small house like that in New York. What part of New York? I can't see.
New York City.
Riverhead, New York, which is, I don't know where that's at.
Okay.
And up near the head of the river.
Yeah, probably.
Mhm.
This is east of Long Island. So if you had to guess how much that house cost.
Wow, you can't go much further east.
I was going, that's called the Atlantic Ocean.
No,
It would be the Riverhead. I
It's
think
a
it would
houseboat.
be the River
no, it's not quite in the Atlantic. No.
So yeah, if you park it outside of New York in the harbor, it's more expensive there than if you park it outside of Corpus Christi. So
$299,999. That's the ask.
Wow.
Right now.
Is that construction cost or sale price?
Sale price.
That's pretty good in that neck of the woods, I would guess.
It is pretty good. And the article goes on to talk about that, of course, it's all 3D printed, which, I guess the 3D printer itself was pretty expensive and, all that stuff that goes into that. I've never had one, but.
What font did they use?
But anyway, it's supposed to cut construction costs by half. So if you can imagine that spreading on. And it was a link in this article as well, that there is a community in Mexico somewhere where people are trying to build 3D printed houses for really poor part of the country in particular, and where they had a lot of flooding and stuff. And, they build their own houses out of whatever. And of course, every time a flood comes, the houses are gone. And so these houses are supposed to be a little more stable. Anyway, I just thought that's great. We've been talking about 3D printing for a long time, and I've heard about them using 3D printing stuff in space, right? But just here we are. Maybe 3D printed church is next.
My son got a kit to build a 3D printer, and we built it one year. It took us a year, but it's kind of interesting how that stuff works. And it basically is this monofilament stuff that you heat up and then spray it out. It's kind of wild. I can't imagine building a house like that. It would take forever, but unless they're using really big filament. But
probably not the one you got from Amazon.
Yeah, I don't think it is. So probably not. Yeah.
What would you print?
Oh, we printed all kind of stuff. He printed stuff for school. He was big into Star Wars, and so he was really into lightsabers. And so he printed all sorts of different lightsaber grips and handles and stuff that he could, hold on to, and this, that, and the other. And they were all kinds of weird things like that. He did keychains and key fobs and what have you. I mean, it was kind of cool when he did that.
Right.
So
very good. So Tom, if you got a 3D printer, what would be the first thing you'd want to 3D print?
A car.
Yeah.
I know that they do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. And it's just kind of like, how in the world do they do it?
Yeah.
So, even the little stuff like you're saying, Brad.
I always say I'm glad there are smarter people than me in the world, because we'd be in trouble if I was it.
Yep.
Our lives would be shortened dramatically.
Wow.
I'm just tempted to say, I'm just glad to be the smartest one on the podcast. I'm good with that. I don't believe it, but at least I felt good saying it.
Well, then I won't give you what my answer was then.
You're not gonna put things in order? Let's see if we can move things around here.
It was a sandwich.
Yeah.
You could print a sandwich. Don't forget the sesame seeds. You got to put the hot seeds on there.
Brown mustard.
There you go. Right.
So I asked the guys if they'd be willing to answer some questions. And it's not because like we ran out of things to talk about all of a sudden, but that's not the case at all. Or
We
it's
could
not
talk
like,
about printing sandwiches. We have not run out of things to talk about.
I don't know. I think that pretty much means we have run out of things to talk about.
Yeah.
or it's not
But-
like I woke up this morning and thought, oh crap, I gotta get something together for this podcast. Let me figure out what to do. But in the spirit of openness and the spirit of, I think something that we've talked about before, about having true connections with one another, about being willing to open up and to share our faith together in meaningful ways, not just, go to church together, but to be willing to talk about, our lives together and our walk with God together. And sometimes that can be pretty uncomfortable. It can feel strange. It can feel like something we're not accustomed to doing. So the guys, they're gonna show us how to do some of that. So I have some questions here that I found online. 12 random questions I would like to ask pastors. Now, as a side note, I don't know if these questions were too random, but we're going to go with the questions and see how many we can go through and see what we can come up, so that you all at home can see what it's like to share life and faith. And I want you to notice how quiet the guys got in the last like minute and a half. And they're not on mute or anything.
I'm sorry. Did you say something? What?
Yeah, and you were frozen. I'm sorry.
Come on, John. Let's get going.
All right. Tom is eager. It must be Cook's shirt, man. He is ready to go.
Yeah. Football's over. Let's get on to baseball season. Let's get on to those dozen questions.
Wade is pouring his heart out, yo. Look at that. Too bad he was on mute. All right, question number 1. Do you prefer to officiate at weddings or funerals?
Funerals.
Yeah, it's interesting because I can tell you both funerals I didn't want to do and weddings I didn't want to do. And I can also think of the other side of that. And consistently, if they were in their 90s and they had been a long time person of faith, I loved those funerals and weddings. If they were a part of the congregation and I knew who they weren't just coming off the street looking for a place to have a wedding. I loved those. So at first I'm like you, Wade. Automatically, I would say funerals, and then I started thinking a little deeper and going, there's some funerals I wished I didn't have to do.
Yeah, I would say in general, I prefer funerals just because it feels like with most funerals, even some of the tragic ones, that the whole gospel message is on display through the whole thing. And that's not to say that can't happen in weddings. And I'm kind of a little bit different, Tom. I like working with people who aren't necessarily. I mean, I love working with people who are getting married in the church, but I like working with people who came to us for a location because there's a real opportunity for for them to at least come into the presence of Christ in the way that we get ready for that. And ultimately that's between God and them. But I just find there's a lot more energy for me in preparing to do that and teaching them why we're doing the things that we're doing. I mean, I don't hate either one. I mean, I probably had more drama at weddings, but it wasn't my drama, and it wasn't drama that I necessarily had to officiate. It was just sort of, a spectator sport almost. Sometimes, families, I don't know, families seem to be more unified around the funeral. That doesn't mean that they're unified after the funeral, but I guess. But when I've seen family trouble crop up, it's usually more often it's in weddings. So anyway, but they're both great. They're both great events, and they're both great opportunities to present the gospel to people who don't always have a chance to hear it.
Brad?
Baptisms. I'm a lot like, yeah, I don't like being confined to just one or two choices. No, I'm a lot like Wade. I've had good experiences in both. It has been my experience, and I started out in ministry as an intern in a really, really large church, one of the largest churches in the town where we were at, and people chose the church for their weddings because of the backdrop for their photos, and not because that it was a religious experience, and that was very frustrating to me. But at the same time, I did more funerals that year, in that 1 year of internship, than I think I have done in any year since. Because funerals, it was a 1,600 member church, and the funeral home called us because there was more than one pastor on staff, and they could get a hold of one or the other of us. And so funerals became more of an opportunity to do ministry, to really present the gospel and resurrection theology. And so I started really enjoying, that's the wrong word. I started really getting into funerals more than I did weddings. In the funeral, you don't have to deal with the mother of the bride unless it's her funeral. But, I've always felt like funerals were more of an opportunity for ministry than weddings were, even though weddings were fun. And I have fun doing weddings, but there's more to the gospel, I think, in a funeral, because it truly is the heart of who we are with a resurrection faith. But I do like baptisms, but anyway.
To answer the question just plainly, I lean towards funerals. But, I've had probably some of the same kinds of experiences you all have had. And then also, in our book of word, or in our hymnal, actually, right? The wedding comes first as an order of worship, right? And then comes the funeral, right? Mm-hmm. So both are occasions for worship.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've been to weddings that I think incorporate that good. I try to make the way I appreciate that way. And I've seen funerals who kind of took that out, right? Where it was kind of Uncle so-and-so's not here. We loved him. And, that's fine. But that was sort of the totality of it, right? I don't want to do that kind of funeral. No. Right. So, but anyway, yeah, when I first started, it was a member of the church, friend of mine. He shared something with me that I wish I hadn't heard, because it kind of tainted my perspective at first. An old preacher had said, "Man, these weddings make me feel like the whore of the church, because people just come, take whatever they want from me, and they leave me, and that's it." I thought, wow. And, sometimes it's like that. But anyway, all right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your honesty and all you had to share. Very good. Wade, try not to add. I'm sorry, Brad, try not to add anymore.
I can change the questions. That's my prerogative.
No. That's your interrogative.
It's my interrogative.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So number 2, are you naturally evangelistic, or do you have to force yourself to do it?
Yes.
And I want to say that sounds like pardon me, that sounds like a Baptist question.
Well, the author is a professor at Southeastern Seminary, which is a Baptist seminary.
Oh, yeah, in Louisville.
And I think our Methodist understanding of evangelism is probably maybe a little bit different than his on the whole. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, and if the question is, are you uncomfortable with trying to bring a person to a point of decision? Yeah, I'm uncomfortable with that. Then I feel like a car salesman on a car lot that is just a commodity that I'm selling. But evangelistic, the word itself is good news, and I'm excited about the good news we have in the gospel, and it, it's not hard to get excited about the gospel. Or sharing my life and witnessing to faith. But if it is a transaction, then I am very uncomfortable with that.
I think I lean toward evangelism, and yet I know I'm like you, Wade. I got to force myself at times to do it because I have an agenda at the time, and the agenda sometimes doesn't include evangelism, and I know that that's a sin. But it's one of those things that I realize that if I'm not actively thinking about this person that I'm interacting with or I'm about to interact with on a level of who is God to this person and who is this person to God, and can I get those two to meet? Then I'm winding up going about my own business and my own stuff. So I have to force myself from time to time to do that, and I really I lean toward sharing the good news. I would much rather have everybody hear about the good news. But yeah, I'm kind of questioning about how this word is, or this question is worded, as to what the really, the intention is. I think a Wesleyan standpoint would look at it a little bit differently.
Well, and I think, I think the first thing I would say is that the author kind of reveals the way he feels about evangelism in his answer. He says, "I don't know a lot of pastors whose hearts just beat for evangelism." Well, I'm sorry for him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for him.
Yeah.
I'm answered yes to both because I think the core of how I understand my job, my role, and the Christian message is that I'm 100% evangelistic in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The force myself to do it part isn't like I don't want to do it. Now, I may not want to do it the way that Chuck Lawless, that's an interesting name, Chuck Lawless wrote about it. And to each his own, right? I mean, we're all trying to figure this out. But I do know that there are tasks and things that I'm expected to do or that I just have to do that don't always fall under the category of evangelism. And sometimes those things don't feel very productive for the kingdom to me. And so in that sense, I really have to sometimes say, you know what? I'm not doing that, whatever it is. It's usually administrative thing today. We're actually going to work on reaching people today in some form or fashion. And so that's why I said yes to both.
I think I started out in faith. I came to faith, when I was 19 years old, and kind of got caught up in the sort of Christian culture of,
Yep.
I don't know how to explain it, but I could take, somebody says, have you seen my keys? What, keys of the kingdom, right? Kind of translate every little thing into a kind of sermonette almost, right? Which kind of annoys me now, but I think I've progressed. And so that now I can still do that, but do that in a way that is, I think, more helpful and hopefully less annoying. So I think what I mean to say is, I can see, and I think preachers, we know how to do this. We're trained to do this. The Spirit helps us do this. I can see, the gospel message in a silly story. If you were to ask me to use the snake in a bag found in a poetry book in a library, the reason why I share these kind of stories is I think we can find something that helps us somewhere along the line say something about Jesus, right? And so in that light, I think I am, kind of naturally I'm naturally evangelistic. And in that sense, it's just kind of ingrained in who I am. It doesn't really need to be forced. And I'm not the guy on the street corner with the sandwich sign, yelling into a microphone. I'm not the one telling or asking people, if you die tomorrow kind of stuff, So, and I think whoever said it before, that's kind of a difference between our idea of evangelism as Wesleyans, as United Methodist Christians, and maybe some other of our other sisters and brothers. And that difference is what it is, but that's how we understand our difference. So.
Have you ever done the children's sermon? And I don't even know who I stole this from, but I know it's been around, where you have the kids, you give a kid the week before, like on Sunday, you give the kid a paper bag and you say, bring back the paper bag and put something in it and we'll have a children's sermon.
Yeah.
and then you just pass it around every Sunday, and you got to come up with something right there on the spot. And I never really had a hard time doing that.
Yeah.
And so I sort of equate those, and and that's evangelistic in a really, I mean, you're not sort of making fun of the guy who lost his keys, but but it's a way to say, we can see God anywhere. I like Laura Heikes down in the Valley does a sermon series over and over and often about finding God, and she has the congregation or other people send her out to places that they designate, and she goes there and she stays there until she has seen God, and I've stolen that from her as for sure. But she does a great job of kind of taking the circumstances that you're in and finding God in that. And I think that's man, if we can teach people to do that, I think it's half the battle, and that's evangelistic to me.
Amen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
I'm sorry.
I just want to just kind of add part of my sense of evangelism is simply that there wasn't a moment. Actually, there was a moment where people were invited to come forward and I didn't, but it was that same night where I wasn't at an altar. I was almost home and God found me. And that's why I have every bit of confidence that God is speaking into this world. And I don't need to confront you. God's already speaking into your life, but I will witness to the fact that God is speaking into my life.
I'll point you that way, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, let's move along. We're running out of time. How much do you pray each week?
You skipped one.
Because we're running out of time. That's all.
Okay. Well, this is can be there's a dozen questions, and obviously we're not going to hit all of them.
Maybe we'll do a special, we'll get together another week and do a question at a time. But how much do you pray each week?
I think. Go ahead.
What does much mean?
I'm just asking a question, man.
Because the guy's answer again, I mean, is previous studies have suggested that pastors don't pray nearly like church members might assume, and we've quantified nothing. I think I could say to that, I have no idea how if we're talking about time, I have no idea how much time I spend praying, because I know probably a minimum is about 45 minutes to an hour a day, because I do morning and evening prayers. But I mean, I kind of feel like during the day, sometimes I have this ongoing conversation. I don't call it prayer time. I just call it, hey, God, I'm a little bit insane right now. Help me work this out. And, sometimes it's just me trying to make sure that I'm considering other points of view when I'm filtering through things. And then, you guys know, we see people, talk to people on the phone. We're with people all the time. Does that count as prayer time? I mean, it is prayers, but it's not my personal prayer time. It's my pastoral ministry, right? So, is it enough? I don't know if there is enough. I mean, but I think it probably ebbs and flows too. I mean, if we're honest, there have been times in my life and ministry where I'm like, I don't want to pray. I don't know what to say right now. And I'm kind of in the forest, or in the desert, if you will, in the wilderness. And so sometimes being in the wilderness and not reaching out to God is, I think it's preparation for something that's coming. So, is that a good answer? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and
Scripture tells us to pray without ceasing. I mean, that means 24 hours a day. So either it means 24 hours a day that you have to pray, or there's another sense of it's not just time, right? It's
I think you're onto something there.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I was just thinking, the reality is prayer is a part of that being tethered in your relationship with God, this awareness, this acknowledgement. And I'm hearing you, Wade, saying you have structured moments of prayer. And
Mhm.
and I will have to say, as I've gotten older, um, and especially during this time, the pandemic, because there's been more time for a reflection, that I'm more consistent about those structured times of prayer than I was, when I was a lot younger. And I find them absolutely vital to remaining in the vine, remaining connected, tethered to God. And it's not about praying formally for people and their needs. It's simply about, I am in this relationship, and I'm desperate to keep that connection. And I know God delights in our relationship. I mean, this is the hard thing for us to understand, is that it isn't because God, simply out of pity, wanted to rescue us from the pit of sin. Even while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us, because there was something delightful about us that God wanted to redeem. And I love hanging out more and more. I just love hanging out with God. No agenda, no, I'm here to ask you or pray through my list. I appreciate people who have that kind of consistency. But on the other hand, like we've expressed here, it's more about just this awareness, a consistent awareness of God's presence in our lives. And part of that is the conversation that happens um, with God, which includes the silences.
Sure.
I don't like the question the way it's phrased, and I'm going to rebel against most of these because of the way they're phrased. But I struggle with the idea that there is
Ornery Methodist, man. God.
well, no, I really do. I struggle with the idea that there is a limit to which a pastor ought to pray. How much do you pray each week? And I think that begs the question of, is it enough? And I think, one of the things that you said, Wade, that really struck me is the fact that we pray in so many different ways. And, being in conversation with another person is a prayer, because aren't we supposed to love others as we love ourselves? Aren't we supposed to love others as we love God and God loves us? And I think that's a prayer, that we live in constant communion with God when we stay in relationship with God and one another. And I think that's a big question. So how much tries to quantify something that cannot be quantified, but is really a quality issue? I want to know that I'm growing deeper in my relationship with God. And I know that there are times when I don't know what to say, but I just know I need to be in God's presence. And Paul writes in Romans that there's a time when that happens, and we falter with words, we can't find anything. But there is this hope that and this assurance that God meets us where we are, not so that we have to go to God to figure out how to do this. And God intercedes on our behalf and says, I got your prayer. I know what's going on in your heart, and I can take all of that. There's a wonderful picture of somebody did with all those little letters that you stick in one of those boards that is kind of like a menu of or whatever it is, and says, Dear God, and then all the letters are just kind of dumped in the middle and says, love me, and God says, I get it. I understand. You don't know how to say it. I got it. I know what you're saying. And so I don't like the idea of quantifying a prayer life. I think that's wrong. I think that's misunderstanding the nature of the relationship that God wants us to have. So
the danger is, we always talk about marking the checkbox, right? That if I just pray my 7 to 10 minutes a day, then I've done what I need to do. I can't help but think of, the relationship, the communion you have with God in terms of prayer, connecting that to the relationship I have with my wife, for example, right? If someone would ask me, how much do you talk to your wife each week? It'd be a silly question, because there's some times when we just kind of look at each other. We're not saying anything, but we're saying something, right? Sometimes it's her giving me that look, right? And she's telling me something. We're having a conversation, right? But it's different. You can't quantify that stuff. That's part of a communion, a relationship that you have, right?
And I think it goes that the hope is that, in using the analogy of you and your wife, when you first got married to where you are now, and you guys just celebrated 25 years, is that right?
We will in June.
Yeah. In June, you'll celebrate 25 years of marriage. Are you closer to her now than you were then? Is your relationship stronger? I think that's the hope that we have, is every day, am I growing closer to Christ? Am I growing closer to God? Then how much time do I clock? It's like punching in with God, and punching out with God. It's weird. It's a weird question. So.
And I think it's important to note the second half of that question, that pastors don't pray nearly like church members might assume.
Yeah.
So it's about appearances. How does it appear to those on the outside looking in? Well, then that means that there's this public presentation, and that kind of just reminds me of what Jesus kept saying in the Sermon on the Mount. Your Father in heaven who sees in secret. That's where the intimacy and the relationship is. It's not about how does it appear to your church members.
Well, and then your church members probably assume that you pray in KJV, right? I mean,
only when things are going really, really well. Otherwise, I go on to scream.org or whatever it is, baby.
See,
Scream.baby.
That's exactly right.
Scream.baby is prayer. See,
I'm telling you.
You did. You just saw the kingdom in something so ordinary.
Right.
And what else we did, guys, we spent our entire time talking about 3 questions.
So we got 6 more minutes of this, right?
Yeah, we'll have to figure out how we can get to the rest of them. We won't hold you here. We'll figure out how to do the rest of them. But any final words, guys, you want to leave with everybody?
Peace out.
I hope everybody has a blessed week. Yep. Just have a blessed week.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We hope that hearing these few things about us, maybe, because I heard some sermons in there, guys. You guys are very thoughtful, so I appreciate you sharing that. And hopefully that'll be an encouragement to the people who listen. Tune in next week. Tina Carter's supposed to be here next week, guys. So
oh, great.
Keep us in line. So can't wait to hear from her. Maybe we'll ask her a few questions too. I'm sure she has something to say as well. Amen. So keep tuning in, keep listening. We got the phone number there on the website and on the Facebook page. You can call in your questions so that we can talk about those as well. So until we can get together, Wade, Tom, and Brad, thank you so much for the gift of your time. It's always good to hear from you guys. Have a great week.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
See y'all later.